Hey everyone, my name is Eric, and this is going to be part 2 of Group 29's project video. So my partner Jim in the first video part discusses the Reddit code which we submitted, and so he goes into more detail in his video. However, in this video we will be discussing our Twitter bot, and we're going to be talking about the challenges and issues we faced writing this code, and why we ended up not submitting that code. So the first thing to note is we did not receive developer permission. This was honestly out of our control. So if we go over here to dash, I'll show you that we have a warning over here stating that application time will be longer than usual. So we waited about 2 weeks and still nothing. But I will still be going over the code that we had written that we prepared just in case we did get permission. So opening up the code over here. Okay, so on the very first line we have our pip install tweepy, which is standard stuff. This is how we installed the module so we could use for our work over here. And as we keep going to the main source of code, all the first part just imports the module so we can use. But this main code over here is what I'll be talking about. So the first thing to note is this part over here. We are missing this completely because we do not have developer access. This would have been given to us if we did, but unfortunately we do not. So this next part over here is how we would have authenticated our credentials had we had the given keys, which is why we just have placeholders here for now. For this, we got this straight from the documentation. There's a standard tutorial there that's straightforward, and it helps out a lot with this part. So moving on to the functions over here, we have a few different functions over here. It's important to note that this part came before these functions that we wrote, but for the purposes of this video I will be explaining to it in order. So this first function takes a text file that I created called lastID. So this function takes the file and stores the last ID, while this function over here just stores that same ID. So the reason behind this is in order to prevent our Twitter bot from repeating a comment on the same post, it just searches for the last ID, and if the last ID is in this file, then it will not comment. Now our main definition over here is what will actually search for the comments and then leave the comments. So we put this in the definition, reply to tweets, and basically used a few loops to apply our code. So here's an infinite loop actually. Let me just note this down. It's an infinite loop. Now unfortunately we didn't get the chance to try or test this because we don't have the credentials to access this Twitter data and then access the posting ability, so we can't really test it. But the majority of his code was derived straight from the documentation here. So if you see this over here, we looked at all the functions that were provided for us and what they did, and we decided to use API mentions as the function for our code. We obviously didn't get a chance to test this, so we didn't know if this would work out or not. We were also planning on using the other functions that was listed in the documentation, test it out, but because of the lack of credentials and permissions from the developer, we couldn't test it. So this in essence is what we planned on doing if we had permissions from Twitter. So obviously what we have done differently if we had more time was try to expand upon the Reddit bot that my partner covered in the first video with this Twitter bot. So if we had more time, hopefully we would have been approved, well, within days or weeks. Who knows how long this COVID-19 situation would prevent this application from going through. And the major takeaway that I took from this project was that APIs can be very useful for processing lots of data. And there's definitely possibilities to expand on this. Thank you.